In 3, 2, 1, here we are live on YouTube. Welcome, everybody. Hopefully some people on YouTube come in to join us. We are just doing the Daily Touch Base, Martinis with Scott, episode 137, I believe. I just got out of court this morning on a restructuring file. Obviously, I was off camera on court. I wasn't testifying today, otherwise I would be shaved and in a suit. Hi to those of you on YouTube. Listen, if you want to jump in, give some comments, ask questions, throw a topic out you want me to speak about. This is our daily touch base. Lasts about 10 minutes or 15 minutes. I hope you caught the show last night where I talked for an hour. We had a drink and discussed truth and trust, and I introduced the concept of a trust bank. So I was in court this morning on a restructuring. I won't give you the name of the file right now, but I'll talk a lot about it in the future when this all settles. And so now I'm being asked to be a speaker on Twitter, so I'm getting distracted. Anyways, jump in. Thanks. Give some comments. So I'll give you the name of the file at a later time because it'll all be public information. But let's just walk through a hypothetical restructuring. I want to talk about balance sheet restructurings today. When you're doing a turnaround, when your business is in trouble, you're coming out of a pandemic, I like to think about troubled companies and the work that needs to be done in two different streams. One is operations, right? Making more money, dealing with your cash flow, getting your labor force right sized, getting your customer back, getting your supply chain rehabilitated. That all just kind of fits for me on the operational side. And then you have the balance sheet side. And today I'm going to talk about the balance sheet side. Well, what does that mean? That means that you have some assets which have some value, and then you owe a bunch of money. And if the value that you have from your assets isn't enough to pay your creditors, to pay the money that you owe, well, then you have you have a problem. So for me, I think about operations. I think about the balance sheet, my assets, my liabilities. And then I think, what's my plan on those two fronts? Sometimes you have to do both. Sometimes you just have to do operations. Sometimes you just have to do the balance sheet. And then the trick with the turnaround is not to run out of money halfway through. That's your cash flow. So there's kind of got those three streams going on. Today we're talking about balance sheet. Imagine that you own or run a company. And it has the value of the assets. If I were to come buy your business today, let's say I would write you a check for $5 million just to buy the assets. You're a contractor company, you're a manufacturing company, you're whatever. I have valued this thing at $5 million. Now, let's say that your creditors, so we've established that your assets in your business as a going concern are worth $5 million. You have to liquidate those things. Without the business, maybe it's worth a hell of a lot less, but as a going concern, it's worth $5 million. We've established that. Now your creditors, let's assume that you have a first secured creditor, which means your bank. And I've talked on this show before about the idea that I think of your creditors as being in a pecking order. It's really important when you're insolvent or your troubled business to understand the ranking of your creditors. And so, it'd be a security deck, a capital structure deck, the security ranking. So your bank often is first, therefore, or your government is first on withholding taxes and priority claims. The bank is second. Okay. Well, they're first secured, but they rank behind the government. And then you could have second secured creditors. What's a second secured creditor? Well, that could be a mezzanine lender or a term loan, but second behind the first bank, right? And then you have your unsecured creditors. Those would be your suppliers, maybe some rents, was a bit of a different animal, but people that are not registering security instruments against the assets like a bank might do. So let's just keep our example simple. You got a bank, you got a second secured, and you got unsecureds. And let's say in our hypothetical example that the bank is owed about $4 million, but to recover their $4 million, to put in a receiver or a solvency trustee or whatever, let's say there'd be $1 million of fees. So it comes out to $5 million. We've established that the value of the assets is $5 million. And so the bank would get out whole. They would be able to pay their lawyers and their fees to other professionals and get all of their money back, right? Because if I bought this for 5, you would take this 5 and the bank would get it because that's the order. The second secured creditor, let's say they're owed $10 million. What is the value of their security? Well, the value of their security is zero, right? Because we already established the asset's worth 5 and the liability is valued. The first security is also at 5, and that's it. It's taken everything. So the person in second position at 10 million in this hypothetical example, I'm not talking about the court case we're in. That hypothetical example, the 10 million is its value is zero. What would I pay you if you were the second secured creditor? What would I pay you to buy your position? Well, I'm not going to recover anything, so I wouldn't pay you anything to buy your position. What about those poor suppliers and other people that lent money to the company that unsecured, that ranks behind the first, ranks behind the second, and ranks last? What are they going to get out of this? Well, the answer, again, is zero. They're not going to get anything. Okay, so there's your hypothetical example. You own a business. The assets worth 5 million. The liabilities in total were 20 million, 5 to the first, 10 to the second, 5 to the unsecureds. 20 million in total, but only the first is worth anything. The second is worth nothing, and the unsecured is worth nothing. What do you do if you own that business? If you run that company? What choice do you have? Let's say you're making a little bit of money. Let's say the operational side of your turnaround's gone pretty well. You've come out of the pandemic. You've gone to a D2C model. Things are going pretty good, and you're starting to make a little bit of money, but nowhere close enough to deal with the problems that you just have on your balance sheet. Well, you have to restructure your balance sheet. What have I told you before? I've talked on this channel a lot about restructuring is what? Restructuring is negotiating for time. Okay, I could pay you all the money, but I'm going to pay it over, I can't pay it today. Like, I know you've demanded and you want the money today. I know that the regular term on this was, 2 years from now. I don't have a hope in hell of making either of those commitments. But if I stretch this over 5 years or 7 years, maybe I can pay you all that money. So you can negotiate for time and you can negotiate for the amount. Okay, I know I owe you 10 million, Mr. or Ms. Secured, second secured creditor, but I can't pay you that, but I could pay you 3. I could pay you 3 or you negotiate for both. I could pay you 3 instead of 10, and I could pay you the 3 over 3 years. I could pay you $1 million a year for 3 years. And then that's something that I could handle within my projections, right? So that's what you're negotiating for when you're doing restructuring. What are the ways for you to fix the balance sheet problem that I just highlighted for you on a hypothetical basis? There's only 2 ways. One is voluntarily, you go to that second secured creditor, you say, here's my business plan, here's my projections, here's the money. This isn't even a negotiation. This is just a fact. There's the money that I think that I can generate out of this business. Therefore, I don't have $10 million, but I do have 3 million over 3 years, or whatever it is that you think you can negotiate within your plan. And then that creditor, that second secured creditor, can say, okay, well, I'll just take that money. And I'll just write off the rest of this, right? Or they could say, no, well, I don't agree with that. We're gonna put you in a bankruptcy. We're gonna come after you and your personal guarantees. What if that second secured creditor says, sure, I'll take that $3 million over 2 years? Well, you still haven't dealt with the unsecured creditors that were behind them, the suppliers and the other people that lent money, extended credit in some basis, that are not secured creditors. You need to get every single one of them on side voluntarily. Let's say you have 200 suppliers that you owe money to. Some of them are really late. They've gone to their lawyer. They're suing you. They're in various stages of their claims. You got to get every one of them on side voluntarily, or this whole voluntary restructuring isn't working. So that could be really difficult, right? In a complex situation, that could be really difficult. So what's plan B? So I said there's 2 ways. One is voluntary. Well, the other one's involuntary, which means you go to a court. You go to a court specific to the jurisdiction that you're in, and you say, hey, judge, I need some help here. Here's my plan. I've got, the projections are working out. I'm making some money, but I can't possibly pay all these people. So I need your help to restructure and get everybody in line for me. And at the end of the day, the creditors get to vote. The secured creditor, second secured creditor, gets to vote on whether they want to accept that plan. The unsecured creditors, who are going to be asked to take nothing or 10 cents on the dollar or whatever it is, they're going to get to vote as well. But Mr. Judge or Ms. Judge, I need your assistance to bring everybody into line, because on a voluntary basis, they're not even listening to me. And that's what a formal restructuring is. In Canada, that would be done in NOI, I've talked about before, a notice of intent to file a proposal, a CCAA, a Companies Creditors Arrangement Act, right? Could be done through a receivership from the secured creditor. Either way, you're going to a court, and you're getting a formal appointment and a formal protection from the court so that you can implement this restructuring. In the U.S., it's basically the same thing. You get your Chapter 11s and your Chapter 15 for cross-border stuff. And so it's the same concept, though. You're going to the judge and you're saying, I need your help. Help me try to save these jobs and restructure this. And then everybody argues it out. Well, I was in court today. And sorry. So then what happens is when you go to court, I should have brought this part up, the marketing process. When you go to court, you may say, I want you to restructure this and have the creditors vote on this, like the second secured. I'm going to offer them $3 million, and the second secured gets to say yes or no. What happens if the second secured says no within that court process? Well, then what you do is you do a sale process. Okay, what does a sale process means? It says, okay, judge, I can't possibly get everybody on side here. You've tried, I've tried, it's not working. Let's just sell the assets, get as much money as we can, give it to the people in order, okay? And that's that. We let the chips fall where they may. So what is the sales process? Well, the sales process is going to generate $5 million. We already said hypothetically that the business was worth $5 million. That's the assets were worth $5 million. That's the most that you can get out of it. So you go through a marketing process, you put an ad in the paper, it's like an M&A sale, but in a really quick time frame, and you get bids in, and the highest bidder wins, no matter who that is. That bidder is often the existing management team or somebody who already knows what the business is, because if you only have 30, 45 days to do due diligence and get your mind around this thing, well, they have a head start, which is kind of a problem with the process. Sometimes, not always, depends on the situation. Maybe it's a great thing. The one that I'm working on right now, I think that's a positive, but your option is to go through a sale process. And so you do that with the assistance of the court. At the end of the day, the person running the process presents to the judge, here's the offers we got, here's the bids that we got, here's the highest bidder, let's sell these assets. The judge says, yep, take the money, take the $5 million, we're going to sell those assets, and they issue a court order which says to the buyer, you've got all those assets, it's free and clear of these other claims, and now you have separated the assets from the liabilities in your business, and the highest bidder owns those assets. They own your business, and you would have the opportunity to bid on that as well. But you could lose. Someone could outbid you. That's the fairness of the process for all of the creditors. So that's what a restructuring is. That's part of what I was in court for this morning. Normally we do Fun Fridays, and I do something a little more entertaining or at least current in the news, but I was in court, so I wasn't able to think this morning on other topics, and this was current on my mind. I know someone sent a note in to me by email about the Laurentian University restructuring and wanted me to comment more about that, and they also had some interesting points, so I'll try to capture that next week. What else? You guys listening on the live stream, do you have any comments? Do you have any questions before I sign off and go back to my Friday work? Anyone? Okay, leaving. Thank you so much for listening. This has been Martinis with Scott. Please give us a thumbs up or give us a follow on the subscription. We're on YouTube. You can follow me on Instagram, both under Martinis with Scott, and what else? We're on Apple Podcasts if you want to listen to the Thursday shows on there. Thank you very much for listening. Signing off on Instagram first and now, and YouTube. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you next week.